In a small village surrounded by green fields and gentle hills, a farmer named Tom lived a quiet life. He was known by everyone in the village as a careful and hard-working man. He woke up early every morning, fed the animals, watered the plants, and worked on his farm until the sun went down. Tom was not rich, but he had enough to live comfortably, and he never spent money on things that seemed useless. One sunny morning, Tom did something that surprised the whole village. He walked into the local auction with a determined look on his face. At the auction, a group of villagers had gathered, chatting and laughing, ready to bid on some old furniture, tools, and a few farm machines. But Tom's eyes were focused on a single item. It was an old truck. The truck was a rusty wreck. Its paint was faded to gray, the tires were flat, and the windows were cracked. The engine rattled whenever anyone tried to start it. The villagers laughed when they saw it. "Who would buy that old junk?" whispered Mary, a neighbor who often visited the market. "Only someone crazy would pay for that," said Ben, another villager, pointing at Tom with a grin. But Tom did not answer them. He only smiled quietly to himself. When the auctioneer asked for a bid, Tom raised his hand. $50, he said calmly. The villagers gasped. $50 for that rusted mess, someone exclaimed. "Yes," said Tom, still smiling. "I will take it." The auctioneer nodded and handed Tom the keys. The villagers shook their heads and laughed loudly. They thought Tom had made a foolish decision. But Tom simply thanked the auctioneer and carefully drove the old truck back to his farm. The engine made strange noises, and smoke came out of the exhaust, but Tom did not seem worried at all. When he arrived at the farm, he parked the truck beside his barn. The children in the village ran after him, curious to see the truck up close. "Look at that old truck," one shouted. "It looks broken." The adults, however, stayed near the fence, laughing quietly among themselves. "He will never fix that," said one man. "It is completely useless." Tom ignored the laughter. He opened the back of the truck and looked inside carefully. There were hidden compartments and small spaces that the villagers had not noticed from the outside. Tom examined each one with care, taking notes in a small notebook he always carried. The villagers grew more curious. "What is he doing in there?" Mary asked. "I don't understand why he bought that truck." Tom smiled. "I am thinking," he said softly. He did not explain anything else. Over the next few days, Tom worked on the truck every morning. He cleaned it, repaired broken parts, and tested the engine. Sometimes the truck would make loud noises, and sparks would fly from the engine, but Tom did not give up. He worked patiently, adjusting parts and testing new ideas. At night, the villagers often peeked over the fence to see what Tom was doing. They still did not understand why he cared so much about a rusty old truck. "It is impossible to fix that," Ben said one night. "He is wasting his time." But Tom had a plan. He knew something about the truck that no one else did. He had noticed small signs that it could be made useful in ways the villagers could not imagine. There were special compartments for tools and hidden spaces that could carry heavy items safely. Tom believed that with hard work and careful planning, the old truck could become something very special. One morning, as the sun rose and the fields were covered in golden light, Tom started painting the truck. He used colors he had chosen carefully. He painted slowly and with care, making sure every inch looked smooth. By the end of the day, the truck looked a little better, but the villagers still laughed when they saw it. "Look at him," someone said. "He is painting that old wreck. It will never work." Tom smiled quietly. "Sometimes people laugh at what they do not understand," he said to himself. Days passed, and the truck began to change slowly. The engine started to run more smoothly. The tires were repaired, and the compartments inside were cleaned and organized. Tom even added small machines and tools he had collected from the market. Each day, he worked with care, adjusting and fixing, until the truck became more reliable. Even though the villagers continued to laugh, some of the children were curious. They would come to the farm after school and watch Tom work. "Why do you spend so much time on that truck?" one child asked. Tom smiled at the child. Because I believe it can do great things. Sometimes, things that seem broken are just waiting for someone to give them a chance. The children nodded, still not fully understanding, but they liked watching Tom work. They saw the truck slowly becoming stronger, cleaner, and more useful. The engine started to roar more quietly, and the rusty frame began to shine under the sun. One evening, as the sky turned orange and pink, Tom finished his work for the day. He stepped back and looked at the truck. It was no longer the rusty wreck everyone had laughed at. It looked sturdy, strong, and ready for hard work. Tom smiled, feeling proud. He knew the villagers would be surprised when they finally saw what the truck could do. He had a secret plan, and soon, it would be ready to show the world that sometimes, what looks useless at first can become something amazing with patience and care. The next morning, Tom woke up early again. He was excited because today he would test the truck in a special way. He had spent weeks preparing it, and now it was time to see if it worked the way he had imagined. The children came running, and even some villagers peeked over the fence. Tom climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and drove slowly around the farm. The truck moved smoothly, carrying heavy loads of hay and tools. The villagers' laughter slowly disappeared, replaced by surprised whispers. "What is happening?" Mary asked. "It is working." Tom smiled quietly. He knew this was only the beginning. The truck still had many secrets to reveal, and soon the villagers would understand why he had bought it in the first place. The rusty old truck, which everyone had laughed at, was now becoming something remarkable. And Tom, the quiet farmer who everyone thought was foolish, was about to show the world that patience, hard work, and belief in what others do not see could turn even the most broken thing into something extraordinary. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the village, casting golden light across the green fields. Tom woke early, as usual, excited to continue his work with the old truck. Overnight, he had thought about new ways to use it, and today he had a plan. Word had already started spreading in the village. Everyone was talking about the strange old truck that Tom had bought. At first, the villagers had laughed, but now there was curiosity in their voices. Some of them even began to wonder if Tom had made a clever decision. By mid-morning, a few neighbors came closer to the farm to watch. Mary, the woman who had often been critical, was the first to speak. "I must admit," she said slowly, "that truck looks better than I expected. It seems strong enough to carry heavy loads." Ben, who had laughed the loudest, shook his head in surprise. "I don't know how he did it," he admitted. "It still looks like an old truck, but it moves smoothly. Maybe he knows something we don't." Tom smiled quietly as he climbed into the driver's seat. "You will see soon," he said, keeping his plan a secret. He drove the truck toward the barn, where he had stored large sacks of grain. The truck's engine hummed steadily as he lifted the first sack into the back using a clever pulley system he had attached inside one of the compartments. The villagers watched in silence, unable to hide their curiosity. "Look at that," Mary whispered. "He made the back of the truck very useful. I never would have thought of that." Tom loaded several more sacks, and the truck carried them without any trouble. He even used the hidden compartments to store small tools safely, so nothing would fall out during the ride. The villagers were astonished. But Tom's plan was not just about carrying grain. He had a bigger idea. He wanted to show everyone that the truck could save time, work faster, and even make life easier for the farmers in the village. After unloading the grain near the barn, Tom took the truck to the vegetable garden. He had created a system that allowed him to water the plants using the truck itself. A small tank of water had been attached to the back, with pipes running to a nozzle. As he drove slowly between the rows of vegetables, water sprayed evenly over the plants. The villagers gasped in surprise. "That is amazing," Ben said, shaking his head. He turned that old truck into a machine that can do many jobs at once. Tom laughed quietly. "It is all about patience and thinking carefully," he said. "Even something that looks broken can become very useful if you know how to work with it." The children ran alongside the truck, laughing and cheering. They were fascinated by the clever machines inside the truck and how smoothly it moved. Tom showed them how to use the water system and explained how the compartments could store tools, seeds, and small sacks of vegetables. Mary bent down and whispered to a child, "He is very clever. I never thought that a rusty old truck could be so useful." Word of Tom's truck spread quickly through the village. More neighbors came to see it. Some brought small loads of firewood, and Tom helped them carry it with the truck. Others brought baskets of vegetables and fruit. The villagers started to realize that Tom's purchase was not foolish at all. By the afternoon, a small crowd had gathered near the farm. Everyone wanted to see the truck in action. Tom patiently demonstrated each feature he had built into it. He showed how the compartments could hide valuable tools safely, how the pulley system could lift heavy sacks without much effort, and how the water tank could make watering the garden much faster. Even Ben, who had mocked him the most, looked impressed. "I was wrong," he admitted. "I thought he wasted his money, but he made that truck very useful. He turned it into a smart machine." Tom smiled and said, "It is not about the money or the truck itself. It is about believing that something old or broken can become useful with patience, work, and imagination." The villagers started asking him questions. "Can the truck carry more than one sack at a time?" one asked. "Yes," said Tom, showing them a clever arrangement of the back compartments. "It can carry 5 sacks safely. And the pulley system makes it easy to lift them." "Can it water a bigger field?" another asked. "Of course," Tom said. "I can add a bigger tank and longer pipes, and it will water the whole field in no time." The villagers were amazed. They had always thought of the truck as a useless piece of metal, but now they saw it as something very valuable. Tom had transformed a rusty old wreck into a tool that could help everyone in the village. As the day passed, Tom continued to demonstrate new ideas. He even used the truck to carry a small cart filled with hay. The engine worked smoothly, and the pulley system made lifting the cart easy. People in the village began to whisper among themselves. "Maybe Tom knows more about machines than we thought," said Mary. "I think he is a genius," said Ben. "He turned that old junk into something very useful." Tom laughed quietly to himself. He did not need the praise. He was happy that the villagers could see the value of the truck now. He had worked hard, been patient, and kept believing in his plan. And now, the result was clear. As evening came, Tom parked the truck beside the barn and cleaned the compartments carefully. He checked the engine one last time and smiled. He knew that this was only the beginning. There were many more ideas he wanted to try. The truck still had hidden potential, and Tom had plans to make it even more useful for the village. The villagers went home, still talking excitedly about what they had seen. Some of them even promised to help Tom with small repairs or to bring more supplies for the truck. The laughter and mocking that had greeted Tom at the auction were gone. Now there was respect, curiosity, and admiration. The children stayed behind a little longer. They loved watching the truck in action and listening to Tom explain how everything worked. One child asked, "Do you think the truck can do even more things?" Tom smiled and nodded. "Yes," he said. "It can do many things. It just needs patience, careful thinking, and a little imagination." That night, as the village grew quiet, Tom sat beside the truck under the light of the moon. He looked at it with pride and excitement. He knew the villagers had only seen a small part of what the truck could do. There were still surprises waiting, and soon, everyone would understand why he had bought it, even when it looked like nothing but a rusty wreck. Tom whispered to himself, "Sometimes, what others see as broken can become the most amazing thing if you give it time and care." The truck, once laughed at, had become a symbol of patience, hard work, and clever thinking. And for Tom, it was a reminder that believing in something others do not understand can change everything. The villagers would soon see the full power of the truck, but for now, they had begun to realize that Tom's strange choice at the auction had been very smart indeed. The morning sun rose gently over the village, and the golden light reflected on the fields where Tom's truck was parked. Today was an important day. Tom had planned something new for the truck, and he was excited to see how it would work. The villagers had started to respect Tom, but some were still curious and unsure. They had watched him lift heavy sacks, water the garden, and carry firewood. But Tom had promised them more surprises. He walked toward the truck with a small cart filled with vegetables. He had designed a clever ramp that could attach to the back. The cart, full of fresh vegetables, could slide easily into the truck. Tom smiled as he tested it. The ramp held perfectly, and the cart slid in without any trouble. The children gathered around, eyes wide with wonder. "It looks like magic," said one of them. Tom laughed softly. "It is not magic. It is just patience, planning, and using what you have carefully," he said. By mid-morning, more villagers had arrived. Mary, Ben, and a few others stood near the fence, watching closely. They were amazed at the truck's new ability. The ramp allowed it to carry more than one cart at a time. With this, farmers could transport vegetables, grains, or firewood in much less time than before. "Tom, how did you think of this?" Mary asked, still amazed. Tom smiled. "I thought about what farmers need most: speed, safety, and making work easier. Then I looked at what the truck already had. The rest is just using your mind." Tom started loading more carts onto the truck. Each one fit perfectly into the space he had prepared. The hidden compartments he had built were used for small tools and seeds, and the pulley system made lifting heavy carts simple. The villagers watched in awe. But Tom's plan went further. He had built a water tank and irrigation system, which he demonstrated next. He filled the tank with water and drove slowly through the vegetable garden. Pipes and sprinklers sprayed water evenly, covering every plant. The villagers could not believe how clever it was. "Tom, this is incredible," Ben said, shaking his head. "You turned a rusty old truck into a machine that does so much work." Tom nodded. "It is amazing what you can do when you are patient and careful," he said. Then he surprised them even more. He had designed a way for the truck to help with the village's animals. Tom attached a small feeder to the back of the truck. As he drove past the chicken coop and the pig pen, the feeder distributed food automatically. The animals followed the truck happily, eating from the feeder as they moved. The villagers laughed in delight. "I never thought a truck could feed animals like this," Mary said. Tom smiled. "It is all about using what you have in the right way," he said. By noon, the villagers were eager to test the truck themselves. Tom allowed them to take turns driving it slowly through the fields. They lifted carts, transported water, and even tried the animal feeder. Everyone was impressed. They could see how much time and effort the truck could save. One young boy asked, "Tom, can the truck do even more?" Tom's eyes twinkled. "Yes, it can. But you have to be careful and patient. There are limits, but you can solve many problems if you plan carefully." The villagers realized that the truck could truly change how they worked on their farms. Tasks that used to take hours could now be done in a fraction of the time. They started talking among themselves about how they could use the truck to help everyone in the village. After lunch, Tom had another surprise. He had built a small storage area inside the truck for harvested crops. Now, farmers could load their grains, vegetables, or fruits directly into the truck and carry them safely to the market. The hidden compartments kept everything secure, and the pulley system made it easy to lift heavy bags without anyone getting hurt. "This is amazing," Mary said again. "I can see now why you bought this truck. You were thinking about everyone, not just yourself." Tom nodded. "Yes. I wanted to make life easier for all of us. And I wanted to show that sometimes, what looks useless can become very valuable." As the afternoon passed, the villagers began helping Tom with small improvements. They collected wood to make extra ramps, brought old hoses to extend the water system, and even painted small parts to protect them from rust. Tom welcomed their help. The children stayed close, watching every step. Tom showed them how to attach the water pipes, how to lift carts safely, and how to store tools in the compartments. The children listened carefully, learning how planning and careful work could solve problems. By evening, the sun was low, and the truck stood proudly in the farmyard. It was no longer a rusty old wreck. It was a clever, multi-purpose machine that could carry, lift, water, and feed. The villagers admired it quietly, realizing they had judged too quickly. Ben walked up to Tom. "I am sorry I laughed at you before," he said sincerely. "I did not understand what you were doing. Now I see. You are very clever." Tom smiled. "It is all right. People often laugh at what they do not understand. But when you work carefully and believe in your plan, you can turn almost anything into something useful." Mary added, "You have taught all of us a lesson. I will never look at old things the same way again." The villagers went home that evening with a new respect for Tom. They still could not believe how much the truck could do. But more importantly, they began to think about their own work and how planning, patience, and care could help them in other areas of life. Tom stayed behind with the children, showing them how to check the truck's engine and clean the compartments. He explained why each part had a purpose and how thinking carefully could solve problems. The children were fascinated. They realized that sometimes the simplest ideas, when used wisely, could make a big difference. That night, Tom sat beside the truck under the light of the stars. He felt proud, but he also felt excited. The villagers had only seen part of what the truck could do. There were still more ideas waiting, more problems to solve, and more surprises to show. He whispered quietly, "The truck is not just for me. It is for everyone. And it will help us in ways they cannot imagine yet." The old rusty truck, once laughed at and thought useless, had become a symbol of patience, clever thinking, and hard work. Tom knew that soon, the villagers would see its full potential. For now, they had started to understand the value of believing in what others might not see. And Tom, the quiet farmer, smiled. He knew that the real magic was not in the truck itself, but in using your mind, working carefully, and never giving up on something you believe can be useful. The next morning, Tom woke early, just as the sun began to rise over the village. Today was the day he planned to show everyone the final surprise of the truck. The villagers had already begun to admire it, but they had no idea what Tom had prepared. As he walked to the truck, he noticed the children waiting eagerly at the farmyard. They had become fascinated with the truck and its clever systems. "What are you going to show us today, Tom?" one asked. Tom smiled. "You will see. Today the truck will do something very important for the village." Word had spread quickly, and soon the villagers began arriving at Tom's farm. Even those who had doubted him the most were curious to see what he had planned. Mary, Ben, and a few other farmers stood near the fence, whispering among themselves. They were excited but also unsure what to expect. Tom climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. The truck roared softly, its engine steady and strong. The villagers watched in silence, eager to see what would happen next. Tom opened the back compartments and carefully loaded several carts filled with supplies, sacks of grain, baskets of vegetables, and even firewood. He had prepared enough for every family in the village. "This truck can carry all of this at once?" Mary asked in surprise. "Yes," Tom said calmly. "And it can do even more." He attached the small ramp to the back and connected a water tank and the pulley system. Then he pulled a lever, and the truck's hidden mechanisms began to work. The ramp tilted slightly, allowing the carts to slide smoothly into place. Pipes extended from the water tank, ready to spray, and the pulley system lifted heavy sacks easily. The villagers gasped. "It is incredible," Ben said quietly. "I have never seen anything like this before." Tom nodded. "The truck is designed to help everyone. Today, we will use it to make life easier for the village." He started driving slowly toward the first farm. As the truck moved, the pulley system lifted heavy sacks of grain and placed them carefully near the barn. The water tank sprayed the fields evenly, and the ramps allowed the baskets of vegetables to slide off safely. The children ran alongside, laughing and cheering. "Look at that!" Mary exclaimed. "It is working perfectly." Tom smiled as he continued. The truck moved from farm to farm, delivering supplies, watering gardens, and even feeding the animals with a special feeder attached to the back. Every task was done carefully, without any mistakes. The villagers watched in amazement. "This truck can do more than I ever imagined," Ben said. "It is like a small team of helpers all in one machine." Tom laughed softly. "It is amazing what patience, hard work, and careful thinking can do." By mid-morning, the truck had delivered supplies to almost every farm. Villagers began to understand how much time and effort it could save. What used to take the entire morning was now completed in just a few hours. Everyone was impressed, and the laughter from before had completely disappeared. But Tom had saved the best surprise for last. He drove the truck to the village square, where all the families had gathered. There, he opened the back fully and revealed a clever arrangement of baskets and compartments. Each basket contained fresh vegetables, fruit, and grains, enough for every family. "I thought this old truck could never do anything useful," Mary said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Now I see it can help everyone." Tom smiled. "It is not the truck that is special. It is the careful planning and patience that make it work." He invited the villagers to take the baskets and distribute them among their families. The villagers were amazed at how much the truck could carry. Even Ben, who had doubted Tom from the start, was impressed. "I was wrong about you, Tom," Ben said sincerely. "I thought you wasted your money, but you were planning all along. This truck is incredible." Tom nodded. "It is not about the money. It is about believing that something old or broken can become very useful if you work carefully." The children helped carry the baskets to the families, laughing and enjoying the process. They were learning an important lesson about patience, hard work, and using what you have wisely. As the day passed, the villagers continued to use the truck to help with their work. They realized that it could carry much more than they had thought, lift heavy objects, water the fields, and even feed animals efficiently. It became clear that Tom's truck was more than just a machine. It was a symbol of clever thinking and determination. By evening, the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the village. The truck stood proudly in the farmyard, clean, organized, and ready for the next day. Villagers walked home, still talking excitedly about what they had seen. Mary approached Tom and said softly, "I am sorry for laughing at you before. I did not understand. Now I see that patience and careful planning can create something amazing." Tom smiled. "It is all right. People often do not see the value of something at first. The important thing is to believe and work carefully." Ben added, "You have taught all of us a lesson. This truck is more than a machine. It shows us that careful thinking and hard work can turn even a simple old thing into something very valuable." Tom nodded. "Exactly. And there are always more ways to use it. We just need to keep thinking carefully and trying new ideas." That night, the children stayed a little longer, watching Tom clean the truck and check the engine. He showed them how every part worked and explained why it was important to use tools wisely. The children listened carefully, learning lessons that would stay with them for a lifetime. Tom looked at the truck under the stars, proud but also excited for the future. The villagers had seen most of what it could do, but he had plans for even more clever uses. He knew that patience, imagination, and hard work could make life easier for everyone, and the truck was a perfect example. The old rusty truck, once laughed at and ignored, had become the pride of the village. It carried supplies, lifted heavy loads, watered gardens, fed animals, and helped farmers work faster and smarter. More importantly, it showed everyone that even something old or broken could become valuable with the right care and planning. Tom whispered quietly, "The truck is only the beginning. There is so much more we can do if we work carefully and believe in our ideas." The villagers would never forget this day. The laughter and doubt from before had been replaced by respect and admiration. They had learned that appearances could be deceiving and that clever thinking and patience could turn the simplest thing into something extraordinary. And as the stars shone over the village that night, Tom and his truck rested, ready for the next day's work, ready for more surprises, and ready to show that even a rusty old wreck could change the lives of everyone in the village. The morning sun rose over the village once again, casting light on the fields where Tom's truck stood proudly. Today, the villagers were more eager than ever to see what the truck could do. After yesterday's surprises, they had begun to understand its value, but Tom had saved the most important demonstration for last. By sunrise, villagers had gathered near the farmyard. Mary, Ben, and several other farmers stood at the edge, curious and respectful this time. The children, excited and smiling, ran toward Tom, eager to help. Tom waved and said, "Today, we will see how much this truck can help the entire village in one day. We will work together and finish tasks that usually take all week." The villagers gasped. They had never imagined that one truck could do so much work in a single day. Tom smiled quietly. He had planned carefully, and he knew the truck could handle it. He began by loading the truck with several carts filled with vegetables, sacks of grain, baskets of fruit, and firewood. The hidden compartments kept the small tools and seeds safe, while the pulley system lifted the heavy sacks easily. The villagers watched in amazement as the truck seemed to carry everything effortlessly. "Can it really do all of this?" Mary asked, her eyes wide. "Yes," Tom said. "But only if we work carefully and together." Tom started driving the truck slowly through the village fields. First, he delivered water to the vegetable gardens. The irrigation system sprayed evenly, covering every plant. The villagers helped attach extra pipes and spread water to the areas the truck could not reach. Next, Tom moved to the barns. He used the truck's pulley system to lift heavy sacks of grain and place them safely inside. The villagers were amazed at how easy it was. What usually required hours of hard work was now done in minutes. Then Tom went to the chicken coop and the pig pens. The animal feeder attached to the back worked perfectly, giving food to every animal in the village. The chickens clucked happily, and the pigs moved closer to the feeder. Even the youngest villagers laughed, watching the animals enjoy their meal. "This is incredible," Ben said, shaking his head. "I never imagined that one old truck could do so much." Tom smiled. "It is not the truck alone. It is the careful planning and teamwork that make it work." By mid-morning, the truck had carried supplies, lifted heavy loads, watered the fields, and fed the animals. The villagers could not believe how much easier their work had become. They realized that the truck could save them hours of labor every week. But Tom's final surprise was yet to come. He had prepared a large cart filled with vegetables, grains, and firewood for every family in the village. He drove the truck to the village square and opened the back fully. The villagers gasped at the sight. "Enough for everyone?" Mary asked in disbelief. "Yes," Tom said calmly. "And all of this has been done in one day, with teamwork and careful use of the truck." The villagers began carrying baskets to their homes. Children helped eagerly, while adults worked together, smiling and laughing. What had seemed impossible yesterday was now reality. The old rusty truck had changed their work completely. Mary approached Tom. "I cannot believe it. I laughed at you before, but now I see that you were planning all along. You have helped every family in the village today." Tom smiled. "It is not just about the truck. It is about patience, planning, and using what you have carefully. Even something old or broken can be very useful if you give it time and effort." Ben added, "I was wrong about you, Tom. I thought you wasted your money, but now I see that your clever thinking has helped all of us." "You are very wise." Tom nodded. "Thank you. I only wanted to show that careful work and imagination can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary." As the day went on, the villagers continued using the truck for small tasks. They carried baskets of vegetables, lifted sacks of grain, and watered the fields. Each task was done more easily than before. The children ran alongside the truck, learning how careful planning and teamwork could make a big difference. By afternoon, the villagers had finished nearly all their work. Fields were watered, barns were stocked, animals were fed, and families had enough supplies for the week. Everyone looked at the truck with admiration. "It has done more than I imagined," Mary said softly. "It is not just a machine. It is a symbol of clever thinking and hard work. Tom smiled quietly. Yes. It shows us that if we believe in something and work patiently, even the simplest idea can make life much better. As the sun began to set, the villagers gathered around the truck. They were smiling and talking excitedly about what they had seen. Even the children understood the lesson. Patience, imagination, and careful planning could turn something old or broken into something valuable. Ben approached Tom again. "You have taught all of us an important lesson," he said sincerely. "We judged too quickly. We laughed at what we did not understand. Now we see the truth." Tom nodded. "It is natural to doubt what we do not understand. The important thing is to keep working, planning, and believing that something can be useful if given time." The villagers returned home, carrying baskets of supplies and sharing stories of the truck. The children ran ahead, eager to tell their families about what they had seen. The village was alive with excitement, and the laughter from before had completely changed into respect and admiration. Tom stayed behind with the children, showing them how to clean the truck and check the engine. He explained why each system was built the way it was, how the compartments worked, and how the pulley system made lifting heavy loads easier. The children listened carefully, learning lessons that would stay with them forever. As night fell, Tom sat beside the truck under the stars. He looked at it with pride and quiet joy. The rusty old truck, once laughed at, had become the pride of the village. It had carried supplies, lifted heavy loads, watered the fields, and fed the animals. But more importantly, it had taught the villagers that careful thinking, patience, and hard work could make a big difference. Tom whispered quietly to himself, "This truck is more than a machine. It is a reminder that anything can be useful if we believe in it and work patiently." From that day on, the truck became an important part of the village. It helped with daily work, made life easier for everyone, and reminded them of Tom's important lesson. Children learned to think carefully, adults learned the value of patience, and the villagers learned not to judge something by its appearance. The old rusty truck, once considered useless, had changed the lives of everyone in the village. And Tom, the quiet farmer, smiled, knowing that patience, planning, and hard work could truly turn anything into something extraordinary. The village slept peacefully that night, and the truck rested beside the barn, ready for another day of work, another day of helping, and another day of proving that even the simplest ideas, when used wisely, could make a big difference in the world. And so, the story of the rusty truck and the clever farmer became a lesson that everyone in the village remembered forever. Never underestimate what patience, careful thinking, and belief in your ideas can achieve.